Hello everyone, and welcome to this video, which is in our Reengineering the Chess Classics series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler, and we're carrying on our series on Paul Saladin-Leonhardt by looking at a game between Heinrich Wagner and Leonhardt played in Duisburg in 1929. So yeah, quite late in Leonhardt's career. I think he died around 1935, 1936. A very interesting game. Yeah, showing Leonhardt's tactical skill, yeah, concrete play, and also showing a little bit of wobbliness in converting as well. It makes it into a very fun game. And of course, for Mr. Beads, this is a semi-Slav structure, so you can enjoy that too. So let's have a look. It's actually a Queen's Gambit declined sort of Cambridge Springs stuff. Knight c3, knight f6, bishop g5, knight bd7, e3 and c6. And now, I mean, knight f3 is completely normal. But yeah, I mean, white players were often quite keen to deal with black's ideas of playing queen a5, bishop b4, knight e4, these Cambridge Springs counterplay. I think a3 has been a reasonably popular move at times when white's delayed committing the knight to f3. Wagner played the move bishop d3, which is probably not so amazing. Black played queen a5, setting up a nice little tactic with d takes c4 and then queen takes g5. And white played the move bishop h4. The idea of white's play, though, is that this knight can come to e2 to defend the knight on c3 rather. So if black tries bishop b4, knight e4, white's got some extra support there for that knight on c3. It's quite a decent idea. Black played d takes c4, bishop c4, b5. Very typical semi-Slav play. A little bit odd with the queen on a5, but yeah, it's well, who knows really? It's not a bad square for the queen in these structures. Yeah, I've got to decide where to put the bishop. Stockfish and Torch, they both wanted to play the bishop back to e2. Bishop d3 seems very natural to me. Again, still keeping e2 for the white knight if necessary. So a6 was played by Leonhardt. Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few possibilities here. The engines like b4, knight e2, and then c5. Just playing quickly like that, the bishop's coming to b7 should be a pretty nice position for black. Just pretty good. Yeah, I mean, in these Queen's Gambit positions, if you can play dc4, play c5, bishop b7, you're normally doing not too badly. And of course, white's played bishop d3 to c4, back to d3, so wasted some time. And this knight has got chased away by b4 as well. So yeah, it's not going to be bad for black. But a6 is very reasonable. I mean, you're just protecting the pawn on b5 and preparing to play c5. One way you just move the pawn to b4, gained a tempo and played c5, but I suppose weaken the light squares around your center a bit more. Here you're keeping that sort of control. So a3 was what the engines wanted, actually trying to exploit the position of the black queen on c5 and trying to clamp down with b4. Quite an interesting idea. Yeah, the engine games were a bit bananas, to be honest. So c5 they were playing. Bishop takes f6. With the idea of if knight takes f6, we take on c5. Bishop c5, we've got b4, of course. And if you were to take with the pawn on f6, then I play bishop e4 and just stop you getting to b7. And then after rook b8, then you go d takes c5. And why is that really clever? Well, if you played d takes c5, I could take with a knight. And if b4, then knight takes d3 is check. When I go bishop e4, rook b8, dc, knight c5, b4, yeah, there's no knight takes d3 check. So, white's actually winning a piece. So, yeah, I've said, yeah, there's g takes f6 or knight f6. I mean, yeah, those black's two moves, right? Well, the engines also point out bishop b7, which is a pretty cool line. Leave the bishop en prise and threaten bishop takes g2 here. And also stop white from playing bishop e4. It's just, yeah, you're just amazed all the time, at the ideas that engines find. So takes, knight e2, takes, knight f6 was the engine line. And yeah, I mean, black's just got some compensation here. Two bishops, isolated pawn here. We were getting some draws here. Torch against stockfish, stockfish against torch, all ending in draws. You just go castles and play rook d8, line up against the d pawn. And yeah, white's just got difficulties in making something of that extra pawn. It's a crazy line there, but a3, quite a challenging idea, and needs a great idea from black. Very unusual idea. I don't think I've ever seen this before, to make it sort of, palatable for black. But knight f3 was played by Wagner, not surprisingly. Bishop b7, c5 immediately was also possible. Castles, c5. And now knight e5, and this was also Torch's choice when you give it 10 knight f3 on move 10. Knight e5 was also a move, very very natural move, very very often played, putting some pressure on the black position and kind of waiting to see what black will come up with. Yeah, interesting now what happened, because what Leonhardt did was absolutely bananas in a way, and yet it worked out very well. What do the engines want? The engines just want to play queen c7, and after takes, queen takes d7, and we're back into a normal sort of situation. And the engines didn't see much for white at all. Some interesting games actually. Takes, queen e2, queen c6, hitting the pawn on g2, so e4. And now castles, just giving white these double pawns, but also the g file is open. We've got the two bishops. It's quite a typical idea. I mean, here the engines even wanted the move f5, check king there. White's got a perpetual. Also got some other ideas, maybe to try and bring a rook in, but the queen comes around to d6, threatening queen e7, also threatening this one along the way. It's quite sharp still. It's still quite sharp, but the engines sort of found some decent possibilities for black. For example, knight e2, we can play rook c8 to defend this one, threatening queen d3, and after rook d1 or rook cd1, the engines were playing for some reason. We just take on e7. Takes, ef. And it's one of those, typical positions really where, okay, white's got an extra pawn, but black's got the two bishops and, plenty of open lines. And the engines thought that black should be fine in this position. Lots of possibilities there, but basically that was what the engines wanted, just queen c7, keeping it tight at the back. But what Leonhardt did was incredible. He took, and now not knight d7. The engines don't like that very much anyway. You go bishop e4 to block the bishop, and then you go f4, and f4, f5. White's got some decent attacking chances there. Leonhardt, and maybe you can see if you can spot it, might want to stop the video and think, what would the black play here? Play the move queen b4. I mean, this is quite... It's incredibly concrete play, I mean, you can understand why he was a player who often got into time trouble. If you're going to be calculating stuff like this instead of just playing something normal like queen c7 on move 12, then yeah, you're going to get into time trouble. The idea is it's hitting this bishop on h4, so a Zwischenzug, as Natasha would say. So what does white actually do here? Well, Wagner played the almost automatic move. I think you'd probably play this automatically in a blitz game, just f4. The engines like bishop f6 best, and then a4 here. Just basically trying to, weaken all of black's position here. It always feels a little bit fraught, when you open up the g file like that, but the engines don't actually see any danger there. And of course you're threatening to take here, and if you go c4, I can go bishop e4 now because the queen's cut itself off there. I mean, the best that the engines could find was bishop e7, takes, and then check, king f8, queen d7, and then this amazing little idea, bishop g2. Obviously the idea is to take. You can go queen g4, check, queen f3, and then rook g8, check after. But then takes and e4, and the engines were thinking that this was pretty good for white, basically. Why is that? Well, it's because this move queen e8 is so huge. which will either win the bishop on here or the bishop on a8, depending what black does. Yeah, this was a game stockfish against torch. Check there, king g7, queen takes a8. And after queen b2, we've got the very nice queen a1, which just keeps everything together, and white's just going to be a piece up. So, yeah, surprising how strong that was. I mean, I thought, maybe a clear positional advantage, because you're sort of exposing the black position, sort of making weaknesses everywhere. But I hadn't expected to be that clear. But yeah, just a very strong idea, bishop f6 and a4, just attacking the queen side there. But white played the almost automatic move f4. But after queen b2, the engines are screaming minus 2.09. So black is completely winning, which kind of shows, I think, the value sometimes. I guess it's also against the type of player involved. But sometimes playing very concretely like this, can really have big effects. What's the key point about it? Well, it's not just that we're grabbing this pawn on b2 and now the knight on c3 is loose. We're also threatening queen g2. With checkmate, and this is a very unusual motif in a queen takes b2 pawn grab on the queen side. You don't really expect to be mating on g2, and I do wonder whether his opponent just totally missed this somehow. Otherwise, it's a bit hard to explain why you'd actually play a move like f4. Well, I mean, white's in trouble. I mean, you just if you play a move like knight e2, then the knight just comes in somewhere. I mean, it's just perfectly fine for black, no problems. So, well, white played rook f2, queen takes c3, rook c1, hitting the queen, and then e takes f6. And it doesn't look so bad, because after all, if you try and castle queenside or something, I've got f takes g7 and then bishop d8. Maybe maybe white's still got some sort of play here. If you go g6, then there's a bit of time. But Leonhardt played a super move here. Again, if you're playing along with this, trying to guess some moves, you might want to stop the video here, because Leonhardt played the great move g5. And what's that doing? It's basically making the pawn on f6 just dead. Basically, it's just blocking the white bishop now. We're gaining a tempo on the bishop on h4, and if you just take this one, well, we can just go castle queenside, for example, and we've got a big some big pressure on here on the bishop. So. A very nice move, just giving away a pawn there, but just to completely stop any white attack whatsoever. Well, white, to his credit, tried to keep things going and played the move f5. And here we start seeing gradually, the downside to Leonhardt's play, which is quite a poor conversion technique, really. There's one really hugely natural move in this position, which is castles. It's clear that the danger is going to be in the center, right, and on the king side. So get your king over to the queen side, with tempo and pinning this one while still attacking the bishop on h4. It really is a total no-brainer, this one, But Leonhardt played the move rook d8, which it's a little bit. I mean, it's winning, of course, but why would you leave your king in the center when f takes e6 and e takes f7 is going to be coming in, pretty soon, really. So f takes e6 was played, rook takes d3. The engines want queen d3, which looks a lot better, really. It brings the queen into play and gets it in touch with light squares. So that is definitely feels better. I mean, if e takes f7, then the black king should be coming round to the queen side, because king takes f7, you have stuff like queen h5 check. So again, you sort of think, well, why wouldn't I have just castled queenside and have the king on c8 already? But white didn't do that. White played rook d2, and c4 was played. The engine's like bishop e4, which is quite a nice move here. Just bringing the bishop into play and also, providing some cover on the light squares there. It's quite a good idea, in fact. But c4 is obviously very reasonable. Bishop takes g5 played. Again, e takes f7. We should move over here, not give white any big checks. Queen g4, we just go, well, it's a little bit more fraught. King c7, rook c4 check, and then king b6. And then, we're kind of in control there. It looks a bit messy, but we're going to have some checks against the king, and the bishop's going to come out, and, it's going to look good. However, white played bishop g5, which is probably a little bit less threatening, but keeps the tension at least. And bishop b4 was played. Again, e takes f7. We're going to move out of the way to d8 and try and survive that. It's very good for very good indeed for black. The engine's interestingly enough like the move h5, which does give you the opportunity of taking back with a king like this because you're blocking the move queen h5. Very nice line, that one, I thought. But after bishop b4, rook takes d3 was played, queen d3, and then queen h5 here. I mean, things are not looking great for white here because, after all, this queen is beautifully placed. It can come back to g6 and just defend the light squares and also put some pressure on the g file. So, yeah, not looking so good. Yeah, I could have played a lot of different ways here. Rook f8 is a bit of a favourite with the engines, just protecting the pawn f7 and keeping ideas like bishop d2, queen d2, attacking the pawn on g2. But queen g6 is a very natural move there. Queen g4. And now, yeah, the engine's liked the move h5 again. Yeah, these moves, getting control of light squares on the king side are very nice. And after ef7, you just go queen takes f7 here, and the queen will have to move away. And then afterwards, you'll just castle king side. For example, queen e2 was what the engines were looking at. Castle king side and easy, I mean, you're just a piece up and, just a towering light squared bishop there. And very few attacking chances for white. But black played castles, and now e7 happened. And yeah, this is getting a little bit more fraught now somehow. I mean, well, we're attacking that rook on f8, and well, I mean, we're starting to look at ideas like queen d7 followed by e8. Feels just a little bit more risky all of a sudden. And actually, the engines think you should just let white go e takes f8 rather, and just play h6 in this position, and just deal with it basically. And if rook d1, we'll go bishop c6, nice and cautious. Stop, just cover the e8 square, and then eventually we're going to be taking on g5 here. That's what the engines think. And if rook d8, then we can just go rook e8 like that, and well, it's a little bit more fraught like this, but with a few good checks here and a little bit of calculation, we can just make sure that yeah. Oops, sorry, not queen takes e3. The engine's just repeating a little bit and then going queen d7. We're absolutely fine there. But a little bit of calculation required. But yeah, Leonhardt played the move rook a8. And this is a really, oh my god, because in this position, white's got rook d1, which is plus 2.5. I mean, we're just threatening rook d8 check, and well, Lord knows what you're going to do about that, really. We're just, we're just loads of tempi up on the previous line there, basically. So yeah, I mean, bishop c6, I just go rook d8 check, and just completely winning there. Yeah, the best that the engines can come up with is takes, and rook e8. By taking like this, you're enabling queen d7 to be met by bishop c6 because the queen's defending c6 now. But yeah, the engines think after h4, threatening h5, that white's got a huge advantage here, and all the engine games are ending up winning. So I mean, from absolutely zero there, yeah, Leonhardt has managed to put himself into a losing position there. Presumably just lost track of thinking e takes f7 to open the black king was going to happen all the time, and just totally lost track of e7. But fortunately for him, his opponent didn't see that and played the move queen d7. But that's not actually that interesting, really, because we can just take on g5 here, threatening both queen takes g2 and queen e3 takes c1. That's the key point, of course, as well. And after queen d8 check, we just take and bishop f8. And yeah, black's just got two bishops and a vast array of unbelievably dangerous threats here. White played rook c2, which wasn't the best, but I mean, everything's losing by now. Queen takes e3 check, queen e1, and White resigned there. Yeah, I mean, just loads of possibilities. It's just masses of material down here. So yeah, that was kind of a shocker. I mean, I loved this very concrete idea in the opening. You know, I don't think you certainly wouldn't see that from every player. You know, knight takes e5 and queen b4. Again, never seen this before in any sort of structure like this. And yeah, I mean, it had an enormous effect on the opponent. Obviously, the opponent missing stuff and just falling into a lost position. And this follow-up g5 was really nice too. Really great vision. But yeah, just then the nerves seemed to get to Leonhardt as we see so often. And yeah, I mean, castles was really you know, a no-brainer. Get away from there and start winning things basically. You know, but well. Didn't quite manage that, but anyway, with a bit of luck at the end, brought home the win, which I think he probably on balance deserved there. So there we are. Hope you enjoyed that game. Hope you're enjoying this series. It's yeah, you know, it's just I always find it quite fun just to you know, to look through yeah, games by the lesser known masters, you know, and just you often find just incredible things and amazing things, and especially the engines, you know, often light up the game with some incredible insights that no one's ever seen before. So there we are. I hope you're enjoying it. If you liked it, give a like, subscribe to the channel, take a look at my new book, Reengineering the Chess Classics. And otherwise, you know, thanks very much for watching and hope to see you at the next videos. Thanks for watching.